I am very glad to be back. It's been a long time since I've had the pleasure and the honor of teaching, of leading, of guiding, of learning together with this community. So thank you. And thanks for being here today. I always take a moment before I begin here to sort of scroll through the pages so I can see your gorgeous faces. And maybe before we begin, I'll invite you to do the same. I see folks I know, I see folks here from home. I see new friends, people I've never met before. I see names where there aren't pictures and I can imagine you. Yeah, let's take a moment to take each other in. Happy Pride. Even the auto guys at the auto body shop across the street are hammering Happy Pride. If you hear noise, that's what's happening. They're fixing people's cars, so that's important. Okay. Let's sit. Come into a posture that will support you to be in practice for this next short time. With weight through your seat, into the seat. Actually, you don't need to do anything with your weight. You can just notice that it's being supported. And that if you're sitting in a chair, your feet too are being supported. So we don't need to do anything to hold ourselves up. We can actually just feel here, resting on the earth at home. Please don't take my word for it. Check it out for yourself. If it feels right to close your eyes, and that helps with turning inward, then fabulous. If it doesn't feel like a good fit, it's no problem. You can just perhaps have a soft focus and let your eyes be sort of a few feet in front of you on the ground. And I just check in with myself as we begin and invite you to do the same. And notice my heart is beating a little faster than usual, a little bit nervous to be with you. So I am going to offer a question and some statements or invitations. And I want to invite you to let these offerings drop into a pool of water in which you might be resting. So you might be inclined to disagree or want to investigate. But for this time, I invite you to let whatever is offered and arises be part of a pool, gentle water. To have a light touch on your listening. A light touch with your attention. What if I told you that you are welcome here? You are welcome with your worries and your wishes, with your dreams and your desires, your fury, your calm, your joy, your sorrow. You are welcome with your questions and your courage. You are welcome in your vulnerability and with your tenderness. You are welcome in the ways that your presence queers the world around you. You are welcome in the ways you identify as Jewish. You are welcome in the way you identify as LGBTQIA+. You are welcome in the ways you are an ally to the Jews around you. And you are welcome as you are an ally to the LGBTQIA+ community. You are welcome in the fullness of your humanity. What would you say if I told you that you are welcome? You belong here. And you are beloved. You are welcome. You belong here. And you are beloved. Try this with me. I am welcome. I belong here. And I am beloved. I am welcome. I belong here. And I am beloved. Continuing to rest here. Maybe you want to repeat this trio of phrases like a mantra. Letting each one arrive in your body into the pool of water, allowing each one to be with you and you to be with it. Without needing to do anything. Anything. Maybe you want to just rest here in open awareness and let your attention just expand to rest with all that is here and moving by. And we'll continue to sit. And when your mind wanders, you're noticing, which means you've woken up. I've woken up. How fabulous. How fabulous. How fabulous it is to wake up, if only for a moment. When you notice that your mind has wandered, your attention has gone on a journey, perhaps you can imagine a chorus of bedazzled angels welcoming you home. Welcome back, they whisper. Welcome back. Welcome home. You're welcome here. Maybe they shout it. Maybe they shout, you belong here. Maybe they shout, we're so glad you're here. And maybe you can just rest in the delight of that, in the pool of that. Or any other feeling that comes up. We can just rest here with it without having to change it, fix it, hold tightly to it. Returning when you're ready to your mantra or your open awareness practice. Taking one more minute here. Maybe finding that release of weight or giving over of weight at the seat once again, at the feet. And when you're ready, taking your time and letting your eyes flutter open. Don't rush. no rush. And before you shuffle or fix anything, when you're ready, bring your attention back to our room together. And if you've had your camera off and you're able, I invite you now to turn it on. Choose someone. You are welcome here. You belong here. Really see them. And you are beloved. How about another person? You are welcome. You belong here. And you are so beloved. And maybe you want to say other things to them like, you're fabulous. You shine. If we were together, I'd share my glitter with you. I'm so glad I got to sit beside you today. Try one more person before we close. Maybe flip screens so that the people on the screens further back get also your loving. Wow, so much beauty. Let's take a beautiful, deep, fabulous breath together as you're able. Maybe you just want to, I don't know, shrug your shoulders or whatever your body asks for in this moment, a little unwrinkling or re-wrinkling. Friends, I want to thank you for your kind and generous attention. And before we recite Mourner's Kaddish, the Mourner's Prayer, I'd like to share this poem with you by David Yadid. It's called A Blessing for My LGBTQ Ancestors. You who fought to love, you who prayed to the same God I do, you who insisted on your dignity even when the world said you had none, you who died of AIDS while fighting for a cure so that people like me might live, you who were shot in a massacre while on the dance floor, you who could not come out and held your secret until your dying day, you who were insulted, shamed, beat, and brutalized, yet kept walking, you who contributed your fierceness, your originality, your art, and your voice to this world. I walk in your memory. I walk this path smoothed and chartered by your sacrifice towards justice, toward holiness, and toward freedom. So we remember our ancestors, all of them, those of our bloodlines and those of our chosen lines. Now we take a moment to remember them all. And for all those who are remembering loved ones today and who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, the Mourner's Prayer, as is your minhag, your tradition, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to recite Kaddish. And I also invite you to unmute if you are able, would like and are able, so we can have a holy cacophony. Harry, I'll ask if you would be willing to post recited together. Yitkadal.
Yama Rahirte Yamlach Malkute Chai Hon Umyomechon Chaye Be Israel Alav Zman Karib Yamru Amen Shmei Rab Or Leolam Leomaya Hara Bikavash Ar Armar Hitase Yitadar Yitalev Yitalal Shmed Shobre Le'ela Min Chata V'Shirata Chata V'Nechmata Diamiran Yalma V'Yamru Amen Lama Rabba Min Shemaya Vayim Aleinu V'Yakol Amen Teshalom B'Mramav Teshalom Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael V'Yakol Yoshvei Tevel V'Yamru Amen.
Amen.
Say shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol yoshvei tevel.
Amen.
Get Aviva in here. Friends, thank you so much for joining us today for this really extraordinary sit today to celebrate Pride. And I want to say happy Pride to everyone. A Chodesh Tov and Shabbat Shalom for those who might be leaving us. Before you leave, just want to make a note that I didn't at the outset, which is that IJS, as probably many of you know by now, we have what we're calling our Rosh Chodesh community, which is made up of those who are supporting IJS by making a monthly gift. I am among those. And I just want to take a moment to invite those of you who have not yet joined us to consider being part of that Rosh Chodesh community, meaning signing up to make a monthly donation to IJS, which really is of great help to us financially and indicates support for the Daily Sit and our other free programs, including our yoga studio on Monday with Lisa Shamash. And no amount is too small, really. It could be $5 a month, whatever is doable for you. Thanks to Harry for sharing the link to that. And of course, as always, you're welcome just to stay with us to continue your practice, turn the sound off on your device, and use this beautiful container that Aviva created for us today to continue to sit or join us for some conversation about the practice today, or share your experience in the chat as whatever you'd like. Thank you so much for that. And Aviva, thank you. That was really such a gift. One of the things that came up for me with that three-part kind of self-blessing was Josh Fagelson, our IGS president CEO, often says that his definition of spirituality, whenever he says that, I'm never really, I think it's not really my definition necessarily, and each of us has a different definition for what spirituality is or your spirituality. But he says, and I think I'm paraphrasing, and I think accurately, he says, to him, spirituality is having a sense of belonging in the universe. So that came up for me, that was number one. The other thing that came up for me with the welcoming is that the Hebrew phrase for welcome is not one word. It's Bruchot habaot, bruchim habaim, blessed is one who comes, which says so much more than welcome, right? May you come in blessing, which has more than just sort of like, well, you're here, but it's more than that. It's an awareness of blessing. So the welcome, you're welcome, you belong, and you're beloved. I thought was just so wonderful. What I wanted, the question at the end of this that I wanted to invite you to comment on, if you want to add to that, is the intersection of pride, LGBTQIA plus identity, and that value of which is universal, just I think to some extent that the human yearning to have a sense of place, um, to have a sense of belonging, to have a sense of being beloved, right? Which is also don't want to. That's not like an add-on. That's like an essential part of that triad, I think. Um, so maybe I don't know, you to whatever extent you're willing to share personally about that, like what that what that means, where that was coming from, I think was so powerful for everybody.
Thanks, Mark. First,
Oh, can I, before less people leave thinking we're not coming back to the end of the summer, everything is going on like usual. The sit is happening all summer, except next Friday, which is 4th of July in the States. Every day there'll be a teacher, there'll be a host. Everyone's good. I'll see you at the end of August. Thanks.
so before anything else, I just want to apologize because I went a little over. So for those who the time was, I want to make sure to honor
It was
things like people's time. Okay. First of all, I caught something else when you were saying Bruchim Haba'im, Bruchot Haba'ot, welcome in Hebrew, is also that word for pool is actually in there. Brecha from the same shorish, from the same root, bet resh chaf, which is cool, and berach ni for bending at the knee. But anyways, but we can play with that word pool, which came to me. I don't know why. I think just as a place for not where we could possibly be able to let go a little further into further. My mom is on this call and she would catch me for the grammar, so I thought I better fix it. I want to tell you that this, I don't know, poem, which I read at Pride Shabbat, the community Pride Shabbat on Friday night. What if I told you you are welcome with your worries and your wishes, with your dreams, desires? That whole piece I created for the community Pride Shabbat in Toronto. I offered it at the beginning of the service. And then we had the service. And after the service, when I arrived in the dinner, a man came up to me and thanked me for the service and particularly for the welcome. And he looked at me and started to cry. And he said, I'm 60 years old and I've never felt welcome. That's what that means. That's what that means. In this context, might not be, each of us might not have that same experience, and certainly not to suggest that all people who identify as part of this queer trans community, not to say everybody had that experience. However, it isn't uncommon, unfortunately. So though it's not exactly necessarily an answer, but you asked me to speak perhaps to how these blessing pieces, like moments of lived experience of welcome, of belonging, of belovedness, how they interact with my experience of identifying as queer. I guess I'd say one more thing about it, another story. Difficult story, just as a heads up, not graphic. Going to the Pride marches, I always say there's an Erev Shabbat trans march and there's a Shabbat day dyke march. Those are the two I go to. I don't think they call them the Shabbos trans march, but I like it that way. Anyways, I have enjoyed it so much over the past few years. I didn't feel like I necessarily had to be there with anybody. I got dolled up. I felt fabulous, glowing, sexy, free, uninhibited to a healthy degree, and celebratory. And I felt truly resting in my belovedness. And I think this year I'm marching with a group of Jews tonight and from the JCC here, and we're going to have security. So I was telling my mom early today that I feel devastated. And so what's relevant to this moment and your
Yeah.
invitation, Mark, is that I was thinking, why so devastated? Many layers. Not all of them are necessarily relevant in this moment here, but one of them is because there is a proposal which comes right from Stonewall of a feeling of liberation. And of course, we all have that to varying degrees, and not everybody has it in the fullness that they should. But that's what I have been experiencing, a sense of true feeling welcome in the space, feeling a sense of belonging and truly beloved in my body, with my voice, with my intelligence. And then I recognize that even more because of the truth of what's going to happen this year, about which I am devastated. Like truly that's the sense of it. So that's what helps me answer, because I remember what it felt like in the past.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being willing to share that. And it is really painful to hear and important to hear. Um, I don't have I don't have a response to that. I just think, like acknowledging that reality, that painful reality right now. That's the reality right now. Um, and what you shared in your description of of those events, and what you shared about the person who approached you after you led that session, brought up for me thinking about what it has felt like to be in the uh, Pride event in New York City, where I will say honestly, I have never experienced in the masses of people who are, parading and marching and cheering and um, just being fully authentic and reveling in that, right? And being able to feel free and safe to be able to be fully reveal all facets of oneself. I don't think I've ever experienced that in any other setting. There's nothing quite like it. So I highly recommend, for those who have never, highly recommend that you bear witness to that. And I think also, as I think some people have mentioned in the chat, um, this may be an issue, this sense of not being welcome, not belonging, not being beloved, um, is, of course, most acute for people who've been historically marginalized and rendered invisible by society. And also, to some extent, it's, I think, kind of a universal condition of having not for everybody necessarily, but for pretty much every human being I've met, except for maybe a handful, having a sense of I don't really belong here. I don't really belong. I'm an outsider. I'm not really so loved. People are not loving being here. We all struggle with that. And to some extent, that's really such a good description about, this practice, and why we're here every day in general. But it's really great to have this specific session, I think, to really, drive that point home about the need, because we often say everyone's welcome, come, like you said, come to your questions. You don't have to be a great meditator. You don't have to know anything about meditation, anything about Judaism. Everyone's equally belonged here. Unlimited seating, plenty of cushions. And come and go, whenever you want, et cetera, et cetera. But the core of it, in terms of the practice, is just a reminder of, oh yeah, I am welcome here. Oh yeah, I do belong here. Oh yeah, I'm beloved. Oh yeah. And then we, like you did, like you explained, the mind, we go off and we forget, and then we come back. And I just want to leave everyone with a little underscore of the angelic choir singing to everyone after we stray from that awareness and intention to come back and say, oh, so great to see you. So great to see you, just as we welcome the Shabbat Queen, every Friday night, and make a deep bow, Boichala. And Aviva, this was perfect. Thank you so much. I also want to respect the Gevura of our little container in the time. So highly recommend everybody check out Aviva's music, the Neshev website, and really Hatzlacha Rabba, lots of success in your new role at Beth Tzedek, which is also a great name for a synagogue, the House of Righteousness. And just a reminder, we're continuing on. Nothing's changing. I'll be back last week in August. Thanks to Harry and everyone for
Thanks.
holding the space. And you're all welcome. You all belong, and you're all beloved. And I'm grateful. I just want to close by saying how grateful I am for the lovely messages and support, and wish everyone it's nice to go out at the beginning of a new month. And wish everyone a Chodesh Tov, Shabbat Shalom. See everyone soon. Thanks, everyone. Any blessings.
Thank you.